The insurgents kicked down the hospital door expecting chaos and fear. What they got was a woman who had already counted their heartbeats. The field hospital sat on the edge of a forgotten road in northern Syria, its tin roof rattling in the wind. Inside, beneath flickering generator lights, Nurse Elena Graves moved between cots with quiet efficiency. Her hands were steady as she changed bandages, her voice soft with reassurances. To everyone, the doctors, the medics, the wounded, she was just another aid worker. They saw her gentle touch, her patient smile. The way she stayed calm when others panicked. They had no idea who she really was. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. The sun had set 2 hours earlier. Elena stood at the supply cabinet counting morphine vials when she heard it. The low rumble of engines in the distance. Her hand paused. She tilted her head, listening. 3 vehicles, maybe 12 men, moving with purpose. Her pulse didn't quicken. It never did anymore. She walked to the window, her reflection ghosting across the dusty glass. A woman in her late 30s, auburn hair pulled back, thin glasses perched on her nose. She looked like someone's mother. She looked harmless. Behind her, Dr. Karim called out about needing gauze, his voice tight with controlled panic. Elena turned and smiled. "I'll get it," she said, but she didn't walk toward the supply room. The engines grew louder. Headlights cut through the darkness like searchlights hunting prey. Elena moved to the corner where her backpack sat, the worn canvas bag everyone assumed held personal belongings. She unzipped it slowly. Inside, beneath spare scrubs, her fingers found cold metal. The compound gates exploded inward with a sound that shook dust from the ceiling, shouting in Arabic. Boots on gravel. The crack of rifle butts against doors. The insurgents had done this before. She could hear it in the practiced rhythm of their entry. They had maybe 90 seconds. Dr. Karim froze, his hand still in a soldier's chest cavity, blood up to his elbows. The other nurses stood rooted in place, faces draining of color. The wounded patients who could understand tried to sit up. Reaching for weapons that weren't there, Elena stood and walked to the center of the ward. "Everyone get down," she said quietly. "Under the cots if you can move." Dr. Karim stared at her. "Elena, what now?" Something in her voice made him obey. Something that had never been there before, or maybe had always been there, hidden beneath soft-spoken kindness like a blade wrapped in silk. The medical staff dropped, pulling patients down with them. The ward fell into terrible silence broken only by ragged breathing and approaching footsteps. Elena reached into her backpack and pulled out the rifle. It was an M408-5, the kind used by military sharpshooters. Her hands moved with muscle memory, assembling the weapon in 18 seconds, loading the magazine, checking the chamber. The nurse disappeared. In her place stood something forged, and different fires. The door exploded open. 4 men rushed. In AK-47s raised, faces covered, eyes wild. They expected screaming. They expected begging. The first man's head snapped back before he processed what he was seeing. One shot. Clean. The other spun toward the sound, and Elena had already moved, dropping behind a supply cart. 2 more shots. 2 more bodies. The fourth man got his rifle up. Almost. She thought she'd left this behind. She was wrong. The ward erupted into chaos, remaining insurgents outside responding to gunfire. Voices screaming orders, more boots pounding toward the building. Elena moved to the window, her mind calculating angles and distances with cold precision. Helmand province, Mosul, Aleppo, before it fell. She had been a ghost there too, working under different names. Through the scope, she could see them taking positions behind vehicles. 8 men left. Organized discipline. They would flank the building, use suppressing fire, overwhelmed through numbers. They had forgotten one critical detail. Superior numbers only mattered if you knew where your enemy was. Elena squeezed off. 3 shots in rapid succession, 2 hitting the lead vehicle's engine block, 1 shattering their spotlight. Darkness swallowed the compound. She moved immediately, changing positions. The wall where she'd been standing disintegrated under automatic fire. But she was already at the next window, already lining up the next shot. One by one, she took them. Not with rage, not with fear. With the same quiet efficiency she used to change bandages. This was just another kind of medicine, the kind you gave to people who brought death to hospitals. When the last body fell, the compound fell silent. Elena stood in the darkness, her chest rising and falling with breaths that came too easily. Behind her, Maria was crying softly. Dr. Karim emerged from under his cot, staring at her like she was a stranger. "Who are you?" He whispered. Elena set the rifle down and removed her blood-spattered glasses, cleaning them with her scrub top. "I'm a nurse," she said simply. "I've been a nurse for 6 years. And before that," she looked at him, and the mask slipped. He saw the shadows in her eyes, the ghosts that lived there, the girl she'd been before the military found her gift for, seeing distances others couldn't. "Before that," she said quietly, "I was very good at keeping people alive. Sometimes that meant I had to be very good at the opposite." The wounded soldier she'd been treating earlier laughed weakly. "Remind me never to piss off my nurses." The tension broke. Just enough for Maria to stop crying and Sophie to start checking. "Patients again?" Dr. Karim walked to Elena. "Thank you," he said. She shook her head. "I should have told you. You saved us. I killed people." "You saved us," he repeated, firmer. "In a hospital where we save lives, you save lives." But Elena knew better. The method always changed you, piece by piece, shot by shot, until you weren't sure which version was real, the healer or the killer. Outside, sirens wailed. Coalition forces responding. Elena began disassembling the rifle with methodical care. By the time soldiers burst through the door, she was just a nurse again, checking vitals, adjusting for drips, her hands steady and sure. They questioned. She gave them her real name, her real service record. Honorably discharged 3 years earlier, with accommodations she'd never mentioned. She'd re-enlisted as a civilian medical volunteer because she couldn't leave the work unfinished. Couldn't sit safely knowing people were dying in places. She had the skills to help. Turns out the night nurse had more scars than anyone knew, and knew exactly how to use every single one. When dawn broke, Elena stood outside watching the sunrise. Dr. Karim found her there, 2 cups of terrible coffee in his hands. "What happens now?" he asked. She took the coffee. "Now I go back to work. People need bandages changed. That's it. That's everything." He studied her profile. "I don't understand you." Elena smiled, sad and true and weary. "I used to be a weapon," she said softly. "Now I'm trying very hard to be a bandage. But sometimes, sometimes weapons remember what they were made for." She watched the medics loading bodies into trucks. Watched soldiers securing the perimeter she'd already secured. Watched the world continue turning. "The patients are asking for you," Dr. Karim said. Elena nodded and turned back toward the hospital. Back toward the work that mattered. Back toward the person she was trying to become. Behind her, the rising sun caught on shell casings scattered in the dust, small golden circles that glinted like forgotten promises. Because violence may know your name, but it can never define who you choose to be when the shooting stops. And in the quiet morning after, in a field hospital that refused to fall, a nurse picked up her clipboard and continued the only war that ever really mattered, the one against death itself. If this story moved you, drop a comment below. And if you want more stories about extraordinary people, hit subscribe.